Beshallach begins with the battle and ends with the battle, and in the middle, a miracle, a turning point, built with this incredible structure that is central to the Bible, the A-B-C-B-A structure, where the climax is the center, and before and after mirror, and the climax is at the center. Occupying the center of Beshallach is the story of the splitting of the Red Sea, splitting the waters, but also metaphysically, the fate of the Israelites was also divided into a before and after. Before, they were still the territory of Pharaoh. That is to say that they were chasing them until the very edge of his territory. Anywhere was in Egypt. Pharaoh rules, at least so he thinks. But once they cross the Red Sea, Israelites traverse the boundary. They're now in no man's land, in the desert. There's no coincidence. Not under any other kingdom or sovereignty. In the desert, where you can experience God directly. The Red Sea functions as a liminal space, a boundary between two domains that once traversed, enter into a new domain, into a new world. And once you go, you can never go back. This time it's a boundary between human and God, and there's no going back. And the symbolism of the splitting of the Red Sea does not end there. As we know, in the ancient past when we made covenants, we used to split a whole into two, like Abraham did with God in the covenant, and here now Israel passes between the pieces, between the two sides of the whole that is now split. The ratification of the covenant with Abraham, passing from one domain to another, from being slaves to Pharaoh, Avadim, to being servants of God, Avadim. This is the meaning of the phrase, until your people pass, O Lord, into the people you acquired, passed by. To understand deeper the change, we must compare the two battles, one before and the other after. The first is marked by extreme passivity. Having let the Israelites go, Pharaoh changes his mind and pursues and goes after him. In a symbol force of 600 horse chariots, Israelites confronted with such immense power blame Moses and tell him, has he brought them to the wilderness to die? Moses answers, do not be afraid, stand firm and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. In effect, Moses is saying, don't do anything, stay silent. God will do it all. But not so in the battle afterwards. After the splitting of the Red Sea, after crossing the other side, the battle was the Amalekites. As it says, the Amalekites came and attacked Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, choose some of your men and go out and fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand at the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands. So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered. And Moses and Aaron and Ul went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning. But whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Ul held his hands up, one on one side and one on the other, so that his hand remained steady until sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. Somehow, when Moses lifted his hand, the Israelites prevailed, and when he lowered his hand, the tide shifted and turned against them. Very strangely, the Mishnah, which is a text focused on law, and usually does not talk about interpretation of biblical verses, decides to comment on this verse. And it says the following, as long as Moses held up his hand, the Israelites were winning. Now, did the hand of Moses wage war across the enemy? Not so. The text signifies that so long as Israel turns their thoughts above and subjected their hearts to their Father in heaven, they prevailed. But otherwise, they fail. God, implies the Mishnah, is not out there, but in here. Moses' hand did not perform miracles. They merely pointed upward. They directed the eyes and thus the minds of the Israelites to heaven. That gave them the courage, the inner strength, the hope and faith to prevail. And that is one of the most remarkable features of Judaism. Its call to human responsibility. God wants us to fight our own battles. This is not abandonment. This does not mean, God forbid, that we're alone. God is with us whenever and wherever. We're always with Him. As it says, though I walk through the shadow of the valley of the death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. What it means is that God calls on us to use those qualities of courage, of confidence, of choice, imagination, determination, and will, which allow us to reach our full stature as beings in the image of God. This transition is the underlying bedrock of the book of Shemot, as we just saw in the Red Sea, later on Mount Sinai, and later on in the building of the tabernacle. as well as the first and second tablets. In each one of those, the first is completely made by God, the second is made by partnership with God. And the difference is immense. In the first, it talks about the passivity of man and the power of God. In the second, what counts is the will of God internalized by man. God transforms from a doer to a teacher. In the process, man transforms from dependency to interdependency. This difference is seen in the nuance of the word avadim in Hebrew, which means slaves to Pharaoh, slave to a human, which you lack freedom. But the servant of God is the one who's called to freedom, a specific kind of freedom. Not chofshiyut, but cherut, the freedom with responsibility, the freedom with meaning. This is the core thing in Judaism, the partnership between God and us. We must put in the effort, we must take the responsibility, but that current power comes from God. As it says later on in the book of Dvarim, Moses says that someday you will say, my power and my strength made me this wealth. People often misunderstand this, and this is a terrible thing to think, but Rabbi Nissim of Gerona explained, this is a misunderstanding. You must read the next passage with it together and understand the meaning of this passage. It says, but you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is He that gives you the power to get the wealth. It is God who instills in us the possibility to do these things, but it is us who exercise our responsibility and our choice and our will and put in the work. Human effort is indispensable, but it is never independent. We work as partners, not as authors. Our hands act, but it is God who gives them strength. Shabbat Shalom.